Remy's Ratatouille adventure just opened in Epcot, and it got us thinking. If we could reimagineer some things in World Showcase in Epcot, what would we do? This is the Mouse and Men, where we explore the grown-up side of Disney. Find us online at themouseandmen.com. I am Bradley. I'm here with my co-caster, Chris. Chris, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Anytime that we do a Reimagineering episode, I'm happy, I'm giddy, because I love exploring this. I love hearing what you have to say. I love hearing other people that listen and then they talk about it and what they would do. Like I feel like the whole vibe of what this show is at its best is it's a community that we can all learn from each other and just enjoy our shared love of Disney. So the fact of these reimagining episodes are so fun for me because the creative side of it that I get to dive into, and then just hearing from everybody else, including you too. So I can't wait to hear what you have to say today.
Yeah, and part of going to Disney as an adult, a lot of us have kids. That's why we're taking vacations down there. Go around World Showcase, and when it first opened, Epcot didn't have a lot of Disney characters in it. It was intentional. It was different than Magic Kingdom. But then in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, Michael Eisner comes in and says, we need to get Mickey Mouse and the characters into Epcot. And Disney started to realize, okay, we can add some of this in there and not lose the integrity of what we wanted to create with Epcot. And especially younger kids in World Showcase, it's just a little drier. So, like, I don't know, like you get a dry burger, it's like, oh, this isn't good, but it's the last burger. So what do? You just smother it. We're just gonna put some ketchup on this dry meal and try to liven it up.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're talking about today. Let's jump right into it. Chris, what we do is the rules that you kind of set down for us when we first started talking about these reimagineering episodes were great. One, it's kind of a reskin. We don't have a big budget. What would you do to just kind of reskin something? Two, what would you do to bring in just a different or new, or in Epcot's case, non-existent Disney character to the attraction? Again, a lower budget thing. And then, just dream big. Blue sky, what would you do if you could recreate anything in this space? So those are kind of the three that we'll go through. And I'll let you kick us off.
Yeah, man.
What would be your kind of low budget reskin option?
Okay, so I really appreciate the balance that Epcot tries to hold with trying to show real or examples of culture from around the world in one spot. And it's always got its little Disney spin on it. I'm sure that the streets of the UK pavilion are cleaner than the actual streets of London. If you go there, those kinds of things, they put their Disney thing on it. But I like the idea that there are subtle nods to Disney properties and intellectual property around the World Showcase, even if they're trying to keep the spirit the same. So in that spirit of trying to keep most of the World Showcase as Disney-fied free as possible, that there's usually, like, I feel like every showcase or every pavilion that we go in, there's usually like a room or two that's not being used for whatever. And I think that if it's behind closed doors, if it's outside of the big panorama of what you're seeing at each pavilion, that there could be, that I would need to see, like, the Disney artist interpretations of the country itself. Of like, this is what it would look like if, if we could step into Luca, we could see kind of Italy, the way that Disney or Pixar imagines it. If we watch Mulan, we can see kind of the renderings of what the Disney Imagineers and the artists, they all make China to be during that. And so adding that in, a way to see how Disney incorporates and tries to respect culture and all that, it really is just hanging a bunch of plaques and pictures and descriptions around. It could be that, but like each pavilion could have a walkthrough of how the artists interpret it. So the outside facades still look as they always have, but you can go and see how Disney interprets this based on the reality of the countries. And so just the beauty of that, I think that it would be neat. It wouldn't add much because most of it's already created, but it allows you to see reality versus Disney reality, so to speak. So that's kind of my thought. It would be cheap. It would be inexpensive. It would go along with the theme of EPCOT, which is the edutainment. We will educate you and we'll entertain you. So make it interactive, make it fun, but it's primarily showing over the years how Disney and all of the artists and Imagineers have reinterpreted these countries. So we could look at Mexico and like the Three Cabreros and all that kind of stuff. Like just make it a bit more like refresh it, update it, but it doesn't have to be this whole new, we're starting from scratch thing, because it's kind of already there in their intellectual property and all of the things that they've created before. So that's number one, artists imagining what the country looks like versus the reality of it all.
I love it. That is really cool. I love, like the Disney animators art. We're expecting our second baby here in just a few weeks, and we're trying to decorate another bedroom, and I'm looking for artwork. What I really love right now is Mary Blair's art. Mary Blair, I mean, she worked on film. She worked in the parks. She worked on It's a Small World. She worked on the mural, the mosaic mural that is in the Contemporary. It's the
cool.
big tower. She did that. So her work is everywhere, but her use of color, it's really fun. So I would love to see Mary Blair stuff too, but I love that because I'm thinking about
That's
that
great.
already.
Yeah.
My first is I'm going over to Canada. They used to have Oh Canada. Martin Short was the narrator for that. Now, and I'm just blanking on who it is. They've got a couple Canadian actors who are narrating Canada.
I think Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, I believe is the two narrators now.
That is correct. So they narrate Canada Far and Wide. What I would love to see is in this, I maybe have seen this movie. I'm not sure if I have, at least not all the way through. Brother Bear.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see Brother Bear come in and help narrate. Just kind of pop up on screen just a couple of times, but just for those younger kids, give them a little bit of a connection there with something that they recognize. Brother Bear taking place in Canada, up there. It makes sense. And you'll have to redo some of the narration, but I don't think that's too expensive just to probably leave all the same movie clips, just rewrite and re-edit some of those voiceovers. I think that would be cool for the kids. I have not seen Canada Far and Wide. I loved Oh Canada. Who doesn't love Martin Short? So that's where I would go first. I think it'd be pretty easy, pretty seamless. Now, because they just redid Canada Far and Wide, maybe wait a couple years, but I think that'd be fun.
See, and I love that idea. I had like a 1B that I almost went with, which is kind of what you're saying. I think that what the complaint for families going to EPCOT is the kids start to get bored because the adults are there learning, and it's not adult themed. It's just more geared towards the edutainment level versus if you go to Magic Kingdom and dive into all the rides there. And so what I thought it's not quite as bare bones as I went with as far as cost goes. And so keeping in theme with our rules here, which is to make an interactive kids area of each of the lands so they can go in and then they can be really immersed in a very Disney way of telling the story. So then they can have some fun too, and they can enjoy that while the adults are going. So I think it's wonderful. You're right on with trying to pull in the kids' interest so that they want to come there more and stay there. So I think that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, and they've got KidCot, which is at most of the stations, most of the pavilions, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It never seems like a big attractor. It doesn't seem to engage the kids as much as I would hope, or as much as I would expect for something Disney. They had what was it? Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
They've got some little scavenger hunts. Maybe rethinking that. Yeah, that could be kind of another 1B. But great idea. So moving on to bringing in a Disney character to an attraction, or something similar. Chris, what do you have?
I trying to think of this, putting on my Imagineer hat, and what I would like to do here. Sometimes I don't know all the ins and outs of maybe the space limitations that maybe certain pavilions have. And so I could run in, like, if I dug in deeper with this, I may find that the reason they haven't done something like this before is just because they don't have room around EPCOT and around that area. But kind of going on the theme of recently refreshing, updating, but staying true to the theming of the France Pavilion with the new Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, they were able to put in an amazing ride and yet kind of keep the spirit of France the same.
Yeah.
Similar to that, going over to Italy, we now have a new character in the Disney world, Luca, who is an Italian. And I love the Italian pavilion, but what I love most about it is all the food and drink choices there. There's not a lot to do or a lot to learn, but there is a lot to eat. And so I think that adding in Luca into the Italian pavilion would be a great way to have people go there more than to experience something more than just the pizza or the spumoni or those types of things. And so I think that, like, theming it what we usually try to do is, one is bare bones, the least cost. Two is a theme around an actual Disney IP. And so using that criteria, let's dive into Luca. I'm assuming, looking at the audience score and the Rotten Tomatoes score and how it performed, I think that Luca, if it was not for the way that we find ourselves in going to the movies, I think it would have been a much bigger hit, because when I look at the scores, it is knocking it out of the park as far as hitting points for what Disney and Pixar people want to see when they go to the movies. Now, I heard that it is not, they don't consider it a classic Pixar movie, but it's still a movie based in a culture that I think that could really add some life to that Italian pavilion. So simply adding not just a Remy overlay, or a Luca overlay, but like really go into that story, because it's kind of this fish out of water story. It's becoming someone, it's like morphing into the version that you've always known that you could be, kind of thing. And so to kind of use that theme to show maybe the Italian spirit as well. So really tie it in with the culture, but do it through the Luca movie that has come out recently.
Yeah, I love it. Luca was a lot of fun. Watched it right after it came out. Loved that. I also love Italy and the culture. So putting that there, I think, is perfect. I really like that. So I kind of added a character in my first option. My second option is doing something very similar, but on a bigger scale. So head over to China, and they've got, again, another video there called Reflections of China. Do a different video on the history of China with Mulan and Mushu. I think it would be a lot of fun. I think it'd be fantastic. Again, it's sticking to that edutainment track where you're being entertained by Mulan and Mushu, but you're being educated by them as well. China's got a long, vast history. It's a big country. There have been people there for a long, long time. And I think that would be really fun to see that, on that just super huge screen. That would be really cool and really funny.
Absolutely. I find that there are certain cultures that I don't know as much about as I wish that I would. And so Epcot has done a really good job of easing me into these cultures to learn more about it. And I grew up, I didn't know a lot about China. I didn't know a lot about Morocco and even Norway, all of those things. And so me going to Epcot, I feel like that I have a richer understanding of those cultures and I want to dive in more. And so the fact that Mulan has not been used there, it's interesting to me because the original movie came out like 98 or something like that. It's 20 something years old at this point.
Yeah.
And then the live action remake came out just a few years ago. I think that would be a wonderful experience in there to learn more about the history of China using Mulan and Mushu. That's great.
Yeah. So now it's time to, grab that blank check and start adding a bunch of zeros. Chris, what's your big project?
All right, my big project is coming over into the UK pavilion, and it's a reigniting of a project that we've heard about in the last couple of years, but it's even going bigger, which is Mary Poppins. There is going to be like a cherry tree lane experience, like you feel like that you're walking through there, and we haven't heard anything about that. Essentially since the pandemic started, they've not mentioned anything. And oftentimes when they do that, that just means that they've kind of scrapped it and are just kind of letting it quietly die away, which is sad because it was the thing that I was most excited about. The new things that they were going to be bringing to the World Showcase pre-pandemic. So I love Mary Poppins. I love the story. I even like the newer movies that have come out or the newer movie that came out just a few years ago. And I just, that's a story that really takes me back and it feels so Disney to me. And especially like Disney, while Disney was still there, Mary Poppins was so magical. I feel like that the cherry tree lane walking experience would have been amazing and beautiful to see. But the thing that I love most about Mary Poppins is the magic of it. And like, she's just amazing at what she does. She is certain of who she is and she brings us magic and everybody benefits from it. I think much like France did with Remy's Ratatouille adventure, that Mary Poppins experience could be something that like, I want to be sucked into the magic of Mary Poppins. I want to be like one of the kids just along for the ride and Mary Poppins is taken care of us. So I would like to see them not just resurrect that cherry tree lane experience, but to resurrect the whole idea of Mary Poppins and to make it an interactive, fun, like an actual ride like you're having now over in France, but with Mary Poppins as the main character and the magic that comes along with that. Again, it was a special place in my heart. Maybe the reason why they haven't done something like this is they realize that maybe today's audiences just don't clamor for a movie from the 60s and a remake from a couple of years ago kind of thing as much as they expected to. But as far as me and what I would like to see the Imagineers do, I would love to see a really immersive, interactive ride starring Mary Poppins that takes us on this adventure.
So while you're saying this, I had this idea. I know you haven't ridden Flight of Passage.
Yeah.
But in Flight of Passage, it is the most realistic experience of riding on the back of a Banshee I think I will ever experience. Bring some of that technology over to the UK pavilion. And in the original Mary Poppins, they hop on that on those merry-go-round horses.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And they go riding off through the chalk drawing. You walk into this little area, you get on a merry-go-round horse, and it's the same kind of experience as Flight of Passage. And you've got the 3D glasses, you're sitting on this horse hanging on, you're strapped in somehow, but you're riding, and all around you excuse me, is the chalk drawing, and you're riding through with Mary Poppins and Bert, and it could be awesome. I don't think it takes a whole lot of space. I don't think it takes as much space as like a Remy's Ratatouille adventure that goes around, because you're not actually moving. It's more of a virtual kind of ride.
Ooh.
But they can still make it awesome based on the technology they used in Flight of Passage. So I love Mary Poppins as well. Bring it back, but make it bigger. if possible. I don't know what kind of space is behind the UK pavilion, but
Yeah.
I love that. That I'd be there in a heartbeat. I'd want to be there on opening day to see all that.
I could even see, just piggybacking on your idea, that like everybody goes and they start off like the loading area of the line. You're all getting on an actual horse or buggy or whatever on a Ferris, or what is it called? On a carousel.
Yeah.
And so we all get on as if we're just going to ride the carousel. And then as it starts to spin. But like the horse that you're on, or the little carriage that you're on, it floats away from the actual carousel and into the ride itself, almost like a Winnie the Pooh ride, where it's just kind of, you're going in and you're learning. But you're doing one of those moving horses as you're going through. So that would be fun too. And then it comes back and it ends as it locks back into the carousel. And then you're back where you started from. So if you go on an adventure just like they did in the movies, I think that's very cool.
Yeah. So there you go, Disney Imagineering. There's your challenge. Recreate that as a ride. And yeah, maybe it's 4 horses across.
Mm-hmm.
In that's a family, that's a row. And so they're going around, and then they jump off, and it's kind of, that is their ride vehicle. Yes. I love it. I love it so much. So go with me over to Mexico.
Okay, I'm there.
I love the Three Caballeros, but let's redo it. So this would involve a new movie of some sort, much like what Disney did. When would that have been? I can't even think now. 50s, 60s? Must have been the 50s. So, but do something similar, but with Huey, Dewey, and Louie. So the Huey, Dewey, and Louie series on that Disney's done. There was the old DuckTales. There's the new DuckTales. Do something with them doing a very similar thing in Mexico. Something that, because I didn't watch this, the Three Caballeros. I don't know if it's really if you call it a movie, but whatever it is, I didn't watch it till I was much older. I don't think I watched the whole thing until I had Disney Plus and could watch it. Mm-hmm. And Saludos. Is it Saludos Amigos? I didn't watch the whole thing until Disney Plus. So create something newer that the kids are going to be able to experience on Disney Plus that's more kind of what they're used to, and then redo that ride with Huey, Dewey, and Louie. I think it'd be a lot of fun for the kids. I think it'd be a lot of fun for adults too. A lot of people my age grew up with those DuckTales adventures, and so it's familiar to them. And then to see it here in the Mexico pavilion, those 3 boys getting into all sorts of trouble, just like their Uncle Donald in Mexico, I think would be brilliant.
Yeah, and Donald he's one of the 3 Cabreros, right?
Yeah.
So I like this. It's almost like we were talking about a couple of weeks ago about the original Turner and Hooch that's now been updated. The original one with Tom Hanks, and the new one has a storyline that follows along with that. That it's now Donald's nephew's turn to go have some fun. And I agree. Like, even though I watched Three Cabreros when I was little, I really didn't pay attention to it too much. And so when I saw that choice in EPCOT the first time I went, it made sense to me just because I was at Disney, because I didn't really get it when I was younger, but it was, now looking back on it, I do see that, like, I barely know those characters, and I remember it growing up. My kids, when they rode that ride, they just thought it was interactive Disney characters they really didn't even know. Right. And so, although the ride was fun, I think that a refresh can bring some new excitement into that area. And I think that's a perfect thing to do, because it goes along, it continues the story from when the first three did it, but now you have a new three that are going on and can update the story to really hit where they are now and where the culture is now, and then the Mexican culture itself, and then the world culture at large. So I think that's a great idea.
It could be a lot of fun, and it it hits on some nostalgia, which is a big thing that Disney does. But it also brings that attraction into a more modern day feel, some more modern characters, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's how we'd reimagine things.
Great.
This would be a fantastic EPCOT. I don't think either one of us hit the same pavilion, because I hit Mexico, Canada, China. You hit Italy, UK, and really all the others with some artwork. World Showcase, we could reimagineer this whole thing right now, and that would be awesome. So now let's get into this week's plussing. So we've been talking about World Showcase, and we've been talking about how it can be tough if you've got especially younger kids, because it is very heavy on the education side of edutainment. So my suggestion this week is do just a little bit of planning specifically for EPCOT, specifically for World Showcase. You don't have to hit every pavilion. 11 different countries. There's a lot to it. And if you're trying to do anything in the rest of EPCOT, because World Showcase is only about half of it, there's another half to EPCOT with all sorts of fun for you and your family. Spend just a little bit of time planning. Maybe pick 3, maybe 4 pavilions. Let each kid pick one, or
that's cool. Yeah.
And say, which pavilion do you want to go to? And then really focus on that and get them prepared for that, because I think that will make your trip to EPCOT that much better. And I'm not talking about a lot of time. I'm talking maybe an hour, maybe 2, but that's not a whole lot. After the kids go down to bed, pull out your iPad, pull out your phone, do just a little bit of planning. As we've said before, travel planners, travel agents, Disney travel agents, they'll be able to help you with this. So tell them which pavilions you want to hit, give them your kids' ages, and I think they'll really be able to help you. And again, it's going to make your trip a whole lot better.
That's so smart. And especially to use travel agents, travel planners, and use their expertise, bloggers out there, YouTube channels, like really dive in and find those areas, find those hidden gems that may not immediately pop out. And especially if you've got a child that is interested in one of the pavilions, you could spend a few minutes learning about it, or you can really dive in deep. So then when you get there, it's just that much more rich. So I love the planning ahead portion of it, because I'm guilty of just like arriving at my destination and just feel like, okay, destination, entertain me. And although Disney is world-class and probably the best in the world at doing that, if I can hype myself up, then I can appreciate it all that much more. So I know that if I can do that, that hopefully that would make the kids' experience that much richer as well, and more exciting to go learn, because they've already got some skin in the game and are learning on their own.
Yeah. And if your kids have trouble picking which country, have them pick a movie. Do they like Aristocats? Go to UK. Do they like Aladdin? Go to Morocco. We've talked about Mulan. We've talked about Ratatouille, Luca. We've talked about all those. So that'll help you make your choices. This is the Mouse and Men, where we explore the grown-up side of Disney. We've had a blast today reimagineering some attractions in Epcot's World Showcase. I think if Disney were to take us up on some of these, I don't know that they ever will, but I think it'd make it more fun for you and your kids. That's why we say you don't want to grow up too fast.
But you got to keep exploring. I'm going to hand Terry one thing. It should take me less than a minute, and I'll be back and ready to rock.
All good.
Bye-bye.
I'll see you in a second. What's funny is I can't hear you, but you can hear me. Yeah. I wish that I were on old Rocky Top throwing trash at Lane Kiffin. It makes sense because those fans are trash too. I think they just need to adopt a kitten. Rocky Top, you'll always be. Trashy,
throwing trash.
trash.
Man, I was sitting there. You were talking about throwing trash at Lane Kiffin while I was handing Terry a protein shake. I was like,